HOA, Karen cut down my $250,000 tree, then sues me when it crushes her car. My wife and I bought our dream home about 5 years ago, a beautiful craftsman house on a 2-acre lot just outside the city limits. The property's crown jewel was this massive 200-year-old oak tree in the backyard. The previous owner told us it was one of the oldest trees in the county and had been professionally maintained for decades. The arborist who inspected it during our purchase estimated its value at around $250,000 due to its age, size, and historical significance. Everything was peaceful until about 6 months ago when the Whispering Pines development went up next door. You know, the type cookie-cutter McMansions crammed onto tiny lots with perfectly manicured lawns, and of course, an incredibly strict HOA. My property bordered their development, but wasn't part of it since we predated them by several years. The HOA president moved into the house right next to ours. She seemed nice enough at first, always waving and making small talk. But things changed when autumn came around and leaves from our oak tree started falling into her yard. One morning, she marched over while I was drinking coffee on my back porch. "Your tree is making a mess of my yard," she announced without even saying hello. The HOA requires all residents to maintain their trees so they don't impact neighboring properties. I took another sip of coffee. "Good morning to you too. And I'm not part of your HOA, so your rules don't apply to me or my tree." Her face reddened. "Well, something needs to be done. I'm tired of raking leaves every day. You need to either trim it way back or remove it entirely." I almost choked on my coffee. Remove it? That tree is 200 years old and worth $250,000. It's not going anywhere. Leaves are just part of living next to trees. "We'll see about that," she huffed before storming off. Over the next few weeks, I got multiple notices in my mailbox claiming I was violating HOA landscaping rules. I ignored them all since they had no authority over my property. Then she tried reporting me to the city for having a hazardous tree. The city arborist came out, declared the tree perfectly healthy, and actually commended us on how well we maintained it. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. One Friday morning while I was at work, my wife called me in a panic. "Someone's cutting down our oak tree," she practically screamed into the phone. I heard chainsaws and looked outside. "There's a tree service in our yard." I immediately called the police while racing home. When I pulled up 15 minutes later, I couldn't believe my eyes. The massive oak was already on the ground, crushing my neighbor's Mercedes where it had fallen. The tree service workers were standing around looking nervous while my neighbor screamed at them. The police arrived right after me. My neighbor immediately started screeching that my tree had damaged her car and she was going to sue me. "Hold up," I said to the officers. "I never authorized anyone to cut down this tree. She hired them to illegally remove it from my property." The tree service foreman confirmed my neighbor had hired them, claiming she was authorized to remove the tree. She'd forged my signature on the work order. "It was hanging over my property," she protested. "I had every right to remove it." "Actually, ma'am, you didn't," one officer replied. "You can trim branches that cross your property line, but you cannot remove a tree from someone else's property without permission. That's criminal destruction of property." My neighbor's face went pale. But my car, his tree destroyed my car." "Your illegal actions caused the tree to fall on your car," the officer explained. "The homeowner isn't liable for damage that resulted from your criminal behavior." I immediately called my lawyer and my insurance company. The lawyer advised me to document everything and get the tree appraised right away. We also filed a police report for the forged signature and trespassing. The appraiser confirmed the tree's value at $250,000. In our state, illegally removing a tree entitles the owner to triple damages. My neighbor was looking at owing me $750,000. Instead of accepting responsibility, she doubled down and actually filed a lawsuit against me. She claimed my hazardous tree had damaged her $90,000 Mercedes and caused her emotional distress. She demanded I pay for a new car plus $100,000 in damages. My lawyer was practically giddy when I showed him her lawsuit. "This is perfect. Now we can countersue in the same case, and she'll have to pay our legal fees too." The day of the hearing, my neighbor showed up in designer clothes with an expensive-looking lawyer. I had my lawyer plus the city arborist who had recently inspected the tree, the tree service workers who admitted she forged my signature, multiple dated photos showing the tree's excellent condition, professional appraisal documents, police report about the forged signature, security camera footage of her hiring the tree service without my permission. Her case fell apart immediately. The judge was clearly irritated that she had wasted the court's time with her ridiculous lawsuit. "Let me make sure I understand this correctly," the judge said. "You knowingly trespassed on your neighbor's property, forged his signature, and illegally removed a $250,000 tree. Then, when your criminal actions resulted in damage to your own vehicle, you had the audacity to sue the victim of your crime?" My neighbor's lawyer was sweating. "Your Honor, my client was simply trying to protect her property from a hazardous tree." "A tree that the city arborist had just certified as healthy," the judge interrupted. "No, what your client did was commit several crimes, destroy valuable property, and then try to blame the victim. I'm dismissing her lawsuit with prejudice." He turned to my countersuit. "I'm granting the defendant's countersuit for triple damages as required by state law. The plaintiff will pay $750,000 for the tree, plus all legal fees and court costs." My neighbor burst into tears. "But that will bankrupt me. I can't possibly pay that much." The judge was unmoved. "You should have considered that before destroying your neighbor's valuable property. Perhaps this will serve as an expensive lesson about respecting property rights." Her lawyer quickly offered to settle. We eventually agreed to $400,000 paid over 5 years, secured by a lien on her house. She also had to resign from the HOA board and write a formal apology admitting her actions were wrong. The day she handed me the first check, I told her, "You know, if you just bought a leaf blower, this whole thing could have been avoided." She didn't appreciate my humor. We used part of the settlement money to plant several new oak saplings, positioned perfectly so their leaves will fall in her yard for decades to come. The rest went into investments that will pay for our kids' college. The HOA got a new president who actually respects property boundaries. My neighbor had to sell her Mercedes to help pay the settlement and now drives a used Corolla. Every time I see her out raking leaves, I wave and smile. Sometimes the best revenge is letting karma take its natural course. Though I do miss that beautiful old oak tree. Update: 6 months later. The gift that keeps on giving. Wow, I can't believe how much has happened since my original post. You all asked for an update, so here's the aftermath of the great tree debacle. Remember how my neighbor had to pay me $400,000 over 5 years? Well, she's been making the payments, but not without drama. Every monthly check comes with a nasty note attached. Last month's gem read, "Hope you're enjoying destroying my life over a stupid tree." I just smile and deposit the checks. But here's where it gets interesting. After my story spread through the neighborhood, other homeowners started coming forward with their own stories about her abuse of power as HOA president. Turns out she'd been selectively enforcing rules, harassing certain residents, and even taking kickbacks from preferred contractors. The new HOA board launched an audit and found she'd mismanaged over $50,000 in HOA funds. They're now suing her separately to recover that money. She's trying to sell her house to pay off all her debts, but nobody wants to buy it, partly because of the huge lien I have on it, and partly because she's become infamous in local real estate circles. Speaking of real estate, remember those oak saplings we planted? They're growing beautifully. But the best part is what we did with the wood from the original tree. I contacted a local craftsman who specializes in historic wood. He took the best sections and is making them into gorgeous furniture, a dining table, chairs, and a storage chest. Each piece will have a plaque telling the tree's story and how it met its end. The craftsman was so fascinated by the story that he's featuring the furniture in a gallery exhibition about heritage trees and justice. Local papers picked up the story, and now my neighbor is even more infamous. She tried to get the gallery to cancel the exhibition, claiming it was defamation. The gallery owner told her to pound sand. My neighbor's life has pretty much imploded. Her husband finally got fed up and filed for divorce after the whole tree fiasco drained their savings. She lost her job at a real estate agency when they found out about her forging my signature, apparently. That's a big red flag for real estate licensing boards. Who knew? She tried to start a GoFundMe claiming she was being persecuted by me and needed help paying her legal bills. It backfired spectacularly when people found out the truth and flooded the comments with links to news stories about what she'd done. The campaign was shut down for fraud. The tree service company she hired is also facing consequences. They lost their business license for failing to verify property ownership and accepting forged documents. They're now suing her too, claiming she misrepresented her authority to remove the tree. At this point, she's got more lawsuits than friends. But my favorite development? The city council used this incident to pass new tree protection ordinances. Now there are huge fines for removing historic trees without proper permits. They're calling it the Heritage Tree Law, though some locals have nicknamed it Karen's Law. The first line actually references our case as the inspiration. Our property has become something of a local attraction. People drive by to look at where the famous tree stood and see the young oaks growing. A local environmental group even asked to put up a small memorial plaque marking where the original tree stood. We agreed, and now school groups sometimes visit to learn about tree law and property rights. The wood craftsman just finished our dining table, and it's stunning. The natural grain patterns tell their own story of 200 years of growth. We hosted a dinner party and invited all the neighbors, except one, of course. Several people asked about the table, which gave me great pleasure in retelling the story. My neighbor must have seen everyone arriving for the party because she called the police claiming we were being too loud. The same officer who responded to the original tree incident showed up. He took one look at our perfectly reasonable dinner party, shook his head, and went to have a stern talk with her about filing false complaints. She's become increasingly unhinged. Last week she was caught on my security cameras in the middle of the night, trying to pour salt around the new saplings to kill them. Unfortunately for her, that violated the restraining order we got after the first incident. She spent a night in jail and now has to wear an ankle monitor. Her latest thing is telling anyone who'll listen that I set her up by having an expensive tree where leaves could fall in her yard. She seems to genuinely believe she's the victim here. The remaining HOA board members say she sends them weekly emails demanding they do something about my new trees. I've started documenting her ongoing crazy behavior in case we need it for future legal proceedings. My lawyer says she's basically handed us everything we need to make the restraining order permanent. The young oak saplings are thriving, almost like they know they're carrying on an important legacy. In 200 years, they'll be just as magnificent as their predecessor, probably still dropping leaves in whatever garden exists next door. I like to think that's the old tree's final revenge, ensuring its descendants will be protected and cherished long after all of us are gone. My wife and I are expecting our first child, and we've decided to put some of the settlement money into a college fund. Our kid will quite literally be going to college thanks to a tree. We're also planning to install a bench near the saplings with a plaque telling the whole story. Sometimes justice works in beautiful ways. As for my neighbor, last I heard she's trying to start an anti-HOA Facebook group, claiming they're all corrupt because they won't help her fight me. The irony of the former HOA president now hating HOAs is just chef's kiss perfect. Life has a funny way of coming full circle. Every month when I deposit her check, I think about how a few leaves in her yard ended up costing her everything. Sometimes I feel a little bad about it, but then I remember the sight of that magnificent old tree lying on the ground, and I know justice was served. The young oaks are growing straight and strong. In a few years, they'll start dropping their own leaves, carrying on their ancestors' legacy. And somewhere, I like to think that old tree is having the last laugh. The next one is titled, "Customer Wants Her Sensors Off Okay," but I need to verify your receipt. Context: this customer is notorious for being rude to my workers. And some have even complained she might be racist. Incident: she complained about a cashier and said, "the black girl with the poofy hair," and is only nice to my Caucasian worker. Karen, named for obvious reasons, came in, stopped me and asked, "Are you the manager?" "Yes. How can I help you?" I guess she didn't hear me and she responded, "Are you the manager?" "Yes, what do you need?" She said she had a problem and then stormed off to the registers. I followed. Karen then goes into a tirade. "I bought these and the girl didn't give me my paper receipt. I asked for it and she didn't. And then she was rude and left the sensors on these. I had to call customer service and wait on hold for them to send me my receipt. She should have given me my paper receipt and now I want these off." "Sure thing," I told her. "I'm sorry about the sensors. Let me just see your receipt." She shows me the receipt off her phone, and I see she had a member number at the top. I begin to let her know that she didn't need to contact customer service, and we would have been able to look up her transaction. Karen interrupts me and says, "I don't care. I wanted a paper receipt." I understand. What I'm just trying to explain is, "Karen, no, you're not helping. I just want the sensors of, and my paper receipt me." "Okay, ma'am. I can help you with that. I just wanted to let you know we have the ability to get your receipt in store. You didn't need to wait for them to send you a receipt." "Karen, you're not being helpful. Just do your job." "I'm not going to argue with you." She's yelling all her responses to me. Me, that's fine. I'm not trying to argue. However, if you continue being rude, I won't help you and you'll have to go to another store. Then something clicked in my head about a malicious compliance I read about a lady counting coins one by one. Just to be petty. So I out on my best customer service voice, "Kiss malicious compliance." I asked to see her phone for the receipt, and she's holding it in front of me. "Me, it's dim. Can you make it brighter?" She does me. "I can't seem to find it. Can you scroll down, Karen? You can touch my phone." Me, "Sorry, I'd rather not. I don't want to hurt it." Karen, "I don't want to hurt it." Mad scrolls down. Me, taking a full minute to scan, looking for the shirt that she bought to confirm purchase before removing sensor. I can't see it." "Maybe you scrolled too fast. Can you scroll back up?" Karen, "This is ridiculous. Can you look it up on your side then?" Me, "Of course, that's why we always ask for an email to hold receipts in case you don't get a paper copy." Luckily, the phone I was using was stuck on loading. So I sat there for a few more minutes and told her, "Sorry, I have to get another phone. This one doesn't work." I get another phone, it loads up. I spent about 3 more minutes typing in her email one letter at a time. After all, I had to make sure I typed it in correctly. I ended up spending a good 5 more minutes just scrolling on the phone pretending to look for her receipt. Me, "Found it. Now let me see if this is on it." Karen, "Here's the tag." Me, "Unfortunately, the tag isn't on the garment. I have to verify off the tag inside." "Sorry, the numbers are pretty small. Just give me another moment." 2 minutes verifying. "Perfect. I'll take that sensor off." Going through to the last shirt, was only 2. I backed out of my store app. Me, "Oh darn, my phone froze and it closed out. And going to need your email again." Karen, "Didn't I just give it to you?" Me, "Yes, but I try not to remember. Customer emails. You know, privacy reasons." Karen gives me the email but says it this time. Me, "Can you slow down and spell it, please?" Another couple of minutes go by, and oops, I need to find the receipt again. Find the receipt. After some time. Me, "Oh, I found it. No, wait, that's a different shirt. One moment, Karen. The tag's on this one, so you can see the numbers better." Me, "Oh, thank you, but I already had found the inside tag. I'll just go off that instead." Me, "I can't seem to find it." Karen, "I'll just look for it on my receipt. What am I looking for?" Me, "The product number." Good idea, using the tag. Better to read the numbers. Karen, after a few more minutes. "Here, I found it." Shows me her phone. Me, "Could you hold your hand steady? I can't read the numbers." Pretend to focus my eyes. Me, "Oh, there it is. Okay, Let me get this last sensor off for you. Fiddle with the sensor for a bit and finally get it off. Give her bag back and told her to have a great day. All in all, what could have been a 1-minute interaction turned into me wasting 30 minutes of her time. I'm just glad to have been able to provide a thorough and positive service to my customer. The next one is titled, Gifting Daughter Presents Meant for Husband's Side Piece. Backstory. Back in 2018, we went on a Christmas trip to see my now ex-husband's, Joe's, sister, Jill. He was acting strange and would not talk to me. His sister, whom I only met one time before, ignored me. I was wrapping presents we had sent to Jill's and Joe and Jill went outside for an period. When we went to pack up, Joe was very concerned about his backpack. Only he could touch it. I thought this is odd, but whatever. A month prior to leaving, I found a prepaid card in his wallet. I took it to see what he would say. He asked about it and said it was for work. I found it and gave it back to him. About a week later, I asked if he was having an affair. He said no, and I dropped it. We have not been in love for quite a while, and I knew we were heading towards divorce. Upon return from trip, something told me to look in his backpack. So while he was showering, I looked and found 2 bracelets and a gift bag. I took the 2 bracelets and hid them. All was well until he went to car to leave. He came storming in demanding I give the bracelets back. I simply replied, "What bracelets?" He said he bought them for me for our anniversary next month. He knows I don't wear bracelets and actually hate them. Why would he be freaking out if the bracelets were for me a month later? He's storming out and we didn't talk about it again. I was finally able to get in his phone and discovered text messages confirming the affair. Revenge. 2 years later, we are divorcing. I am cleaning our rooms, helping him pack. While cleaning, I found the 2 bracelets I had hid years ago and forgot about. I didn't want them, but our middle child, F15, loves jewelry. We were separated but decided to have Christmas at the house together. So Christmas morning comes and kids are opening gifts. The look on Joe's face as our daughter opens the bracelets was priceless. They were rose gold, her favorite. Her face was beaming with joy. He sat there looking at the jewelry like a deer in headlights.